Hello, how you doing? I'm Craig Parkinson. You are listening to the Two Shot Podcast. Sit yourself down, pop the kettle on. We're going to have a nice old chat. Who's it with this week? I'm going to tell you right now. Hello, how are you? Welcome. This is the Two Shot Podcast. This week, I've gone a little bit close to home. Don't get worried, but I am interviewing my wife. Why? Who? My wife is Susan Lynch. I'm here at home. Producer Griff, he's got in his car, he's driven down the motorway, and he's come to Gloucestershire. We're going to be sat in the front room, and we're going to talk to her. It's going to be great. I know it is. Why? Because I've been with her about 14 years, and she's a phenomenal actor. Hopefully there's going to be great, interesting stories. Oh, wait a minute. Have you subscribed? You haven't? Oh, please, just hit subscribe. It's so easy. Subscribe now. Do that. And also, while you're there, get on social media. Follow us at Two Shot Pod. Follow us on Instagram at Two Shot Pod. Search for us, the Two Shot Podcast, on Facebook. It's dead easy. And then there'll be loads of exclusive things. We'll tell you about guests. We'll give you little tidbits. It's going to be great. Okay, let's crack on with the podcast. This is the Two Shot Podcast. I'm Craig Parkinson. And this is Susan Lynch. Producer Griff has driven a fair while today to get here, and I've literally gone from one room in my house into another because I'm sat in my living room with the amazing actor Susan Lynch. Hello.
Hello.
Why do you... We were talking just before we started rolling. I was talking to you about actor and actress. What's your main preferred?
I've always preferred actor.
Why is that?
I think there's something about the feminine and whatever that verb is of the word actress that sort of, it's like hostess or hostess or actress. I don't know. I think it stems back to when I was about 11. I did plays, well, from about the age of like 7 to 11, I started acting in Gaelic. So there was a play I did called An Cruach agus an Boas.
Easy for you to say.
Which was called The Gambler in Death in English. And I played the gambler, and it was an Irish drama festival, so you were in competition, and I won Best Actor for playing the gambler because the adjudicator thought I was a boy.
Really?
Yeah, and then he realised that I was a girl, and he got really flummoxed, and he sort of was like, "Oh right, she's a girl." So he ended up having to give 2 Best Actress awards that night instead of an actor. And I think from then I've always kind of gone, oh, I love the fact that he didn't know I was a girl.
And did you have short hair? What was going
No.
on?
I tied my hair back. As I do now, had quite a lot of hair. But
it used to be bigger, I remember.
It did used to be bigger,
Can I just say, for those of you listening who don't know, Susan Lynch is my wife. And that isn't the reason we've got her on the podcast. The reason is, as with everybody we have on the podcast, is just a chat. Anyway, that's all. Sorry to break the flow.
No, not at all.
Can we just go back? Because we're talking about your drama festivals.
The Irish drama festivals.
The Irish drama festivals, obviously. Because you grew up in Northern Ireland. And I know you were born in the early 70s.
Yeah.
But can you just... When did you first feel that acting was going to be some sort of release or some sort of means of creativity for you? Was it quite an early age, or were you inspired by... Because obviously I know a lot of people know that your older brother is an actor as well.
Yeah, John.
Or did that come independently?
Oh, it was interesting in our house because there was 5 children and I was the youngest, and my brother So I suppose when I was 10, my brother was already at drama school.
Right.
He would have been 20. And yeah, from like the age of like 6, 7, I did these plays in Gaelic, as a lot of my siblings did. And it was a form of expression and a form of, you were speaking in Gaelic, which in the north of Ireland, there was the whole thing with the Troubles. And so Irish language in Catholic schools was a real form of expression.
And was it something that everybody had to do across the board, or was it something you chose to do?
It was something you were chosen by the headmaster.
Oh,
like
right.
in the primary school, you were chosen. So I distinctly remember him coming into the class and just saying, I want Susan Lynch, and taking me out of my normal P6 class and then taking me to the dinner hall and phonetically writing out my lines. I was Baby Bear and Goldilocks and the Three Bears.
So you were pulled out of that lesson to become Baby Bear.
Yes.
How old were you there?
7.
Now,
8.
You obviously enjoyed that. Did you? Am I just putting words into your mouth? Did you enjoy it? Or were you a bit...
I just remember the experience being really like dreamy and kind of, surreal. And I just remember like the whole feeling of the audience and then performing just felt really nice. And I didn't think too much. I mean, I just remember at the time going, I don't really know how I did that. Actually, nothing's changed. Absolutely nothing's changed. I feel that every time I do acting, I sort of go, did I do that? It's just part of my makeup, I think. That it feels a little bit like a parallel universe where you're somebody who goes and does something, but then you have this other self that is a normal human being. Was
it a new experience for you getting laughs? That first moment.
Yeah, it was the fact that there was a mass of people and you were just this little kid with these other kids, and suddenly this mass of people were watching you doing this story, and it was the communal feeling. I remember thinking, wow, this is an amazing thing. I didn't know what it was. Of course I didn't, because I was so young. I didn't really understand the whole concept of storytelling, but at the time I remember really feeling that I had discovered something that I didn't think existed.
Yeah. A new buzz, something exciting.
It was really, it was a really lovely thing, because I think as a child you play all the time, and then suddenly it was like, oh, we're playing, and you're all clapping that we're playing. And it was that first moment of really, really understanding.
What, you're clapping for this? I do this all the time.
Yeah, because that is what children do all the time, as we know, with our little boy. And so it was just a really, and then then I loved it. Then the next year, of course, I was in the next.
And were you asked to do it again the following year?
Yeah, then I played the Lion in The Wizard of Oz, and we got to the final of the drama festival.
So can you just explain to me and also to everybody listening about the drama festival? So we're in Northern Ireland
in school,
and is it school pair off? So it's school versus school, or is it county versus county?
Yeah,
it's school versus school.
Well, it's the Irish Drama Festival. They have, the amateur circuit in Northern Ireland is really big, still is, and they have an English Drama Festival, where, different places like Portadown, Newry, Carrickmore, all these different places compete in an English drama festival in each of those towns. But the Irish Drama Festival was schools, and you were all up against each other. Now, I don't remember the detail of the Irish Drama Festival as much because I was so young.
Yeah, of course.
But I do remember being in Dublin, I think it was Dublin, where we performed it. And my tail came off. I was the lion, and there was a girl pulling my tail, and she had to go, and lowen, and lowen. And my tail came off, and you could just see my pants. And the audience just went insane with laughter. So I suppose in a bizarre way, my whole introduction to drama was comedy. You know, as a child, I was always regarded as a funny, you know, and then it's quite interesting because my career, I've turned into a very intense, serious actress, which, you know, is just kind of funny to me. But yeah, back then it was like, and it was the talk of the bus on the way home, you know.
That your tail came
that
off.
my tail, because I swung my tail around apparently. I don't really remember this, but apparently I swung my tail around and threw it around my head and then threw it off the stage, and it was like, you know. And it was just one of those kind of things that everybody, I suppose kids would find that really funny, wouldn't they? If somebody was in a play with them and then they swung their tail around and threw it off if the tail came off. So that's what I remember of my early introduction to acting.
And when did it become, apart from the school's drama festival, when did it become a part, was it ever, did it become a part of school life? When did it become for you doing classes that were in school? Because obviously the drama in school stuff is extracurricular as well, isn't it? It's not just...
Well, they sort of took you out of lessons to do the Irish drama stuff.
Right.
So, and they do it sometimes in your break, but you didn't really do it like... Occasionally, I think we did it after school if you had the performance quite soon. But then when I was about 8 or 9, my sister, who was really into acting, and my elder brother, who we talked about, they were both part of a group called New Point Players, which was an English drama group. And when I was about 8 or 9, I started to get interested in that because I was doing my Irish drama at school, but my sister was going off at night and kept talking about this guy called Sean Hollywood, and he was a teacher in a boys' grammar school by day, but by night he was rehearsing. He rehearsed like 3 plays a year, and he did 1-act plays as well. No, probably about 5 or 6 plays a year.
Really?
In his free time.
Because this would this be the equivalent of like amateur drama group over here?
Yeah, but he was unique in that he could spot talent. So it was like an amateur drama group, but he was also nurturing. Like he nurtured my brother, absolutely nurtured him. He nurtured loads of actors from our hometown.
But I know you weren't doing stuff like Paint Your Wagon, or you weren't doing...
we were doing really
proper
tricky
plays, weren't you?
Yeah, we did. My sister did Marat Sad. It's actually got a really long title. It's not even called Marat Sad, and they won the All Ireland with New Point doing that particular show.
And the All Ireland is
the All Ireland like amateur drama festival.
Right. Oh, okay.
And to win the All Ireland is a really big deal. You get to spend a week at the Abbey Theatre in Dublin, which is our national theatre, doing your show. So, and Sean never knew where he was getting the money to get anybody anywhere or to get the sets done. Everything was done out of goodwill. He never charged anybody any money. I did some incredible plays with him. I did a play with him called War at Home, which was about a guy coming back from the Vietnam War, and actually his whole emotional baggage was not about the war. It was about his relationship with his father. And it was this American play, you know, so, and I played the sister. And I just remember thinking, wow, how amazing that we are learning about this world, you know. But he had this ability to pick these kind of extraordinary plays. I remember he did Blood Brothers just as it first, like, became a thing, and we were doing it, and he got the rights. I don't know how he did it.
Yeah.
You know, so we did Blood Brothers. We did They Shoot Horses, Don't They, with the youth group. And it's a dark play.
Yeah.
You know, but he loved to push people, and he really loved to push audiences. I remember he did a Brenton Behan play, The Borstal Boy, in Newry Town Hall, and people walked out. You know, he was because
he was pushing boundaries.
Yeah, he was. You know, it was part of his thing. He was a risky, eccentric, but deeply passionate, and a very political man as well. Really believed in equal rights in Northern Ireland. Really, but non-violently, was a huge advocator of that. And yeah, he sort of, it was, he was like the person that if you were hanging around in the town and you thought, I don't know what I'm going to do. You know, I lived up a mountain about 6 miles outside of the town. But if you didn't know what you were going to do and you were just wandering around, I'd go to Sean's house, and you would just sit and talk about plays, and you would talk about acting, and he would talk about his aspirations for you, or he would say, this is a speech that I found for you, you know. And he sort of basically nudged me in the direction of drama school. So
was he the first person that inspired you and supported you and you looked up to? Because he didn't really did he have any of that at school or not?
I did, absolutely. I mean, my first teacher was my headmaster at my primary school, who directed me as Baby Bear.
Oh, it was the headmaster that was doing all that?
Yeah, it was Eugene Hanaway.
Wow.
And he was really passionate about Gaelic and really passionate about acting. And his nephew was a really good actor. I actually, when I was 16, I played Juliet, and his nephew played my father. So you find that actually there were a lot of people who you made connections with, or, you know, it all sort of came full circle. Then when I went to secondary school, I was the only person in my family to fail the 11 plus. And so Eugene Hanaway, who was my headmaster, was absolutely devastated, you know, oh my God, a Lynch to fail the 11 plus. And then I went to secondary school, and of course, as soon as I walked through the door, they already had heard that I'd done Gaelic plays at primary school. So then I was straight into the Gaelic drama department. And I was very good at Irish. I had a real affinity to Irish. And I used to go to the Gaeltacht, which is an Irish college in the islands. And
you can, I'm right in saying, you can only speak Gaelic.
Yeah. Yeah. So I would do that in the summer, and you could only, and if you spoke English, you were sent off the island.
Really?
Yeah. But it was so much fun. It sounds horrific, but, you know, just speak that language and don't, you know, but it was actually such a laugh. And you learned a lot about Irish culture, and you had ceilidhs, and it was really fantastic.
Does that still happen now, the Gaeltacht?
It does, I think, but not as much. It's not as, back then, probably because it was the 70s, and, you know, holding on to your culture was like really, really like holding on for dear life.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was definitely a big thing. And then when I got to secondary school, I did plays in Gaelic, and then in my second year, I did Oliver Twist. I played Mrs. Sowerbury in Oliver Twist, and that was with my Irish teacher, Walter Bradley, and my religion teacher, Colin Powell, who was a hoot, but he used to direct all the musical productions. And ironically, my sister now at that same school directs all the musical productions.
Right.
So yeah, it was a sort of natural progression. It was like that was my world. That was where I was comfortable.
But how incredible that you, from such an early age where you were, you had that support.
I know.
I'm not turning this around on me, because that's not what these podcasts are about. But I do have to say, I don't remember having anything like that at primary school at all. You would do a Christmas thing or anything.
Yeah.
It's for the parents and all that, and it was all kind of silly and aren't they sweet? But we never had anything like that. They doing the Irish plays. I generally think that's brilliant.
I felt really lucky. I felt really, really lucky that I had...
Sorry to interrupt again, but do they still do that now? The plays in Irish?
I don't think they do in primary school. I don't think they do.
What a shame that those kids now are missing out on what you had.
I know,
because not only were they learning about Gaelic and their history and their culture, but they were performing, they were expressing, and they were nurtured and supported. And
I know.
inspired.
I think they do, they still do, night classes, where you can go and do, an Irish class in the, and it's an optional thing. I was really, really lucky. I had in my primary and secondary education, I had people that really saw me, and really, really nurtured that in me. And then Sean Hollywood was the king, really, because he literally saw me from the age of 9, 10 till I was 17, picked the right speeches for me for drama school, and then sent me on my way. And then when I was at drama school, he always came to London 3 times. Sorry, he's dead now, which is why I speak about him in the past tense.
No, I want to go back to him. I want to talk more about Sean Hollywood, because a lot of people have had certain people who are massive inspirations in their life, and I know that he was so much, because we have spoken about this before, obviously.
Yeah.
But the type of stuff that he would do for you, when you said to him that you were thinking about auditioning for drama school, what was his reaction there with you?
It's so difficult for me to explain his character, because he was such a sort of... He wasn't like some sycophantic drama teacher. No. He was just like, I want all my ducklings to do well. He didn't have that sort of... He had a very...
No, I know you do a very good impression of Sean Hollywood, which hopefully we're going to get at some point.
I'm going to try, but he'd literally go, you'd be leaving his house, and he'd go, and you go, so Sean, I have thought about it, and I do think that maybe I'll give, drama school a try. And he'd go, yes, you can, of course, and shut the door. And that was it. He didn't have any he called everybody cows, I remember once saying to him, I was in a Neil Simon, he loved Neil Simon, and actually he's given me that. I love Neil Simon. I think it's just sublime comedy. And he, I was just a bit fed up. I was a teenager, this is the thing. A lot of my time with Sean, I was a nonchalant, grumpy teenager,
You were a teenager. Everybody's a nonchalant, grumpy teenager.
So I remember, coming to a rehearsal, and it was for a Neil Simon play, and I was playing a prostitute. I only had a couple of lines, and it was a one-act play. And I came out, and I just went, oh, Sean, I just don't really know how to play this part. I just really don't know how to say these lines. And he went, oh, well, that's a shame. That's a shame, because these are the kind of roles you're going to be playing all your life. And that was his... He had... And he was right. I've played so many prostitutes.
It's true.
So, it's like he had this sort of brilliant wit about him. And it kept you down to earth, it kept you very grounded, because he totally supported your talent. But he was also like... You've got to work really hard, and I think
it's so important not to have the bullshit early on. How brilliant that you didn't have that, because there is enough bullshit later on, I think, in this business. But if you've got somebody that grounds you so early on, and makes you work hard for them, because I think you did want to please him, didn't you? You did.
Oh my god!
You never wanted to let him down.
No. And when he smiled, when he went, you knew that when Sean went, very good, very good.
Because he does seem like. I'm always very sad that I never got to meet him, because you do speak about him. You put him on such a high pedestal, and I know he was such an amazing inspiration for you. Was he quite a man of few words? So then when he did say something, or he did raise a smile, you
big
thought,
time.
oh, I've done all right there.
Yeah, he was like that with everyone across the board. You know, he just had a way about him. You know, in the drama group that we were all in, we've got a book of insults, and it's the book of notes and directions that Sean has given over the past, you know, the time that he was alive, and that dates back from, you know, 30, 40 years ago, you know, but it's all one-liners of Sean going, you know, Pauline Lynch knows her lines, you know, to people, or I could go to Woolworths and get someone to do this better than you, you know, and he had these kind of quips, but he also had this amazing pride, you know, and you absolutely saw it. And I remember being in the dressing room before you went on stage, and the passion that he had, and how he articulated the importance of being a group and what you were about to do in front of another group of people. And that's never left me, you know, that sense of that why you're doing it is a communal thing. And I think we live in an age now where community is a really precious thing, and we have to look after it. And if there's a way that you can join people together and you can bring people together, it's really, really important to do that, because, you know, we are getting more and more about oneself, you know, everything's about, you know, the individual.
Yeah.
And, you know, where I came from, and the whole reason that I wanted to act was absolutely about the opposite of that. So it was always really, really tricky for me arcing a career, because I find it really impossible to think from what the sense of oneself. And actually it's incredibly truthful, and it's been right, because the times when I've not been happy at work have been when it hasn't been a community. So for me, it's still as important as it was when I was really young, you know. So
how incredible that you've held on to that you learned so young.
Yeah, but I think it would have been impossible for me not to, because that was my idea of what storytelling was. It was always about two groups of people, the people that tell the story and the people that are listening. And you know, as soon as it becomes about me, or the idea that, you know, and that's why the people that I have forged very, very close relationships with in this business are the people that I really genuinely connected with. And actually they are the people that have championed me. So it's always sort of really ultimately worked in my favour. And the people that I don't get jobs with are normally the people that I shouldn't, because I probably wouldn't work well in certain environments. So it's interesting. It's like you have to listen to the fact that somewhere, you know, there is a through line, even though our business is totally illogical and it doesn't have a through line.
Yeah.
But somewhere within yourself, you know, your own sense of self and why you do it, there is one. There has to be, because otherwise you wouldn't do it, because it's a load of shite, a lot of it.
Just so, kind of just want to jump back. So, I don't know, I asked this to anybody yet. Do you remember what speeches you auditioned?
Yeah,
for drama school?
Yeah, I do. I did Crimes of the Heart, Babe from Crimes of the Heart. That was chosen by Sean. And I did Hermione from A Winter's Tale, chosen by Sean.
Did he drill you on that? Did he help you?
Yeah, he was amazing.
And so then, when you auditioned and successfully got into drama school, what was his reaction?
Oh, it was...
Is that a stupid question?
No.
Of course he's going to be absolutely over the moon, but...
he was... There was nothing more joyous for Sean than coming to London, going to see some shows. I went to see Geoffrey Bernard is Unwell with Peter O'Toole in it, with Sean. Sean used to watch...
And obviously he chose... Did he take you to see that?
Big time, yeah. He found the best shows in London, and he would take you. And like, you know, you were at drama school. It was really... You could never have gone to see those shows. He'd pay for the ticket. He'd take you there. He'd take you and all the other people from the drama group that were in London. You know, there was quite a few of us at that time. You know, there was people at RADA. There was a few people from the group, which is such a credit to him, that were all at drama school at that time. And he used to, you know, like maybe one or two of you would go to the theatre. I remember going to see Geoffrey Bernard is Unwell with them, and then like take everybody out for a meal, and he'd pay for everything. And his pride was just, I've got my kids from this little tiny town. We all read plays in a council house in Newry, and here they are at drama school. And that for him was, you could see it. He was in his element, that we sat round a table, you know, with all his kids who were flying, you know. And yeah, he was such an amazing guy. Sorry, I'm actually getting quite emotional, but I do, talking about him, because he totally changed my life.
I don't want to change the subject.
I'm going to have a drink of water. Sorry.
Have a drink of water. So you're there, you got into drama school. How were you able to fund yourself? Because now we know that funding is such a massive problem.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, can I assume that you did get a grant?
Very, very little. I got 500 a term.
But they covered your fees?
Yeah.
Which even if we go back a fair few years was still a hell of a lot of money. Yeah.
I mean, I was the fifth of four kids, so I was never going to get a grant. That was, you know.
And all your siblings went on to higher education, to university or to drama school?
They didn't actually, but even so, they used that against that was part of the thing that they said, you know.
Yeah.
She's the last of the family. I don't know, and they take everything into consideration, don't they? But
they did, yeah.
They did. I worked every night. I worked in every bar up and down Finchley Road, and at weekends, and my mum used to sneakily send me money without my dad knowing. So she'd send me like 40, 50 quid whenever she could. I used to work as an usher at Christmas. I mean, I remember like some Christmases I didn't go home.
Because you were grafting?
Yeah. I used to sell programmes. There was a massive theatre at the is it Blackfriars, or what was that theatre called? Anyway, the Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe was on.
Was it the Playhouse? It's called the Playhouse,
was it? And it looked like a big barn anyway, that's all I remember. But you got paid really good money if you did like all over Christmas.
The shifts that people didn't want.
Yeah. And I remember there was no public transport on Boxing Day, and we walked in from Kilburn to wherever it was, Blackfriars. And just there was a lot of that. I mean, a lot of scraping. Sorry, I'm just going to move my leg. I'm sat on it.
Good to describe exactly what you're sat on. It's good. It's good for podcasting.
And and then it was basically, you know, the pubs. I mean, there was sometimes though, as you know, you get to third year and you couldn't really work.
No, you didn't have any time to work.
You had to do the shows and stuff. So by the time I got to third year, it sort of all eased off a little bit. And then.
Because as with all these podcasts, we always sort of, we're jumping around the timeline loads, but I do want to go back to your first thoughts of being at drama school, because you've come from living up a mountain.
Oh my God.
In a very
I cannot tell you.
small
Yeah.
part of Northern Ireland.
Yeah.
And you've come all the way to Swiss Cottage into this drama school, and you're with around loads of other different personalities. It's a completely new experience.
Yeah, I mean, I just literally was like I say, you know, there is a part of me that still kind of goes, really? Do I do this? And I've always had that. Even at drama school, I used to look around and go, they all look like actor/actresses. And what am I doing here? You know, I always had a little bit of a sense of, crikey, really, apart from when I did the work. And then when I was up there, it was like another person. Sorry, I feel like Beyonce, and she's got that alter ego. What's her name? Sasha Fierce. I'm
glad I didn't come in and say that. If I'd have known, I did. For the record, I did not know that.
But in a weird way, there has always been an element of that for me. It's like somebody else does the actual acting, and you know, I'm very separate. But there was a part. So when I wasn't acting, I used to literally look around at everybody else and go, "What am I doing here?"
Did you think that came from you didn't belong in this environment, or did you feel in any way not worthy, or where did it come from?
I don't know. I don't think it was. I think I had massive, probably self-esteem issues, you know, in my 20s. And actually, the juxtaposition of low self-esteem and then arrogance probably really helped me as an actor. You know, because those two things bizarrely flipped a lot for me. You know, there were some times I was incredibly kind of like, really, am I doing this? And then there were other times I'd walk into a meeting and go, I actually genuinely didn't really like this character. Can I read for this other one?
So in a way they kind of balance themselves out.
So it was kind of interesting, my sort of journey with myself. But I do remember at one point when I was working, I got to my early 20s and I realised that and I'd been working quite a lot. I'd done a lot of theatre. You know, I left drama school to do a play at the Royal Court with Danny Boyle. That was my first job. You know, it was kind of a really big deal. And, you know, then I just kept doing some theatre, did a little bit of telly. And then I remember just going, I'm going to Africa. I'm just going to go off. Because...
And just stop it all?
Yeah, well,
Did you feel at that moment you wanted to stop acting altogether, or...
I just genuinely wanted to know to get a little bit of a sense of who I was. Because I think when you're a young actor, you can just get really into the whole acting thing, and then you can lose track of yourself a little bit.
When you're a young person anyway, you're still trying to work out who you are.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I think I had a real battle with it in my 20s. That I had a real battle with the sense of doing the work, but then being seen, you know. So I kind of felt really good if I had this persona that did it, but then I wanted to come away from it and be invisible, and it didn't really happen like that.
I don't think it did, because I know we've jumped forward a lot at the moment, but I do want to touch on the fact that when you left drama school so early, you were quite thrust into the spotlight heavy on.
Yeah. For
someone at such a young age. You were at the Mecca for new writing, which was the Royal Court.
Yeah.
You're working with Danny Boyle. You were doing an episode of Cracker that really blew up. I mean, a lot of people were talking about it. And this isn't the type of podcast where we really talk about jobs. I mean, you know that, and I don't want to do that because I kind of think that's pretty boring, and if people want to look at what people do, they're just looking up on the internet.
Yeah.
But when you're trying to work out who you are, and you are thrust into that spotlight, it did become too much for you.
It did, yeah. It really did.
So was your default setting to go the opposite direction and just run away?
A little bit, yeah. I find it really odd that, you know, you would act and then people would recognise you. I find it really, in my 20s, I don't find it at all odd now. You know, if someone recognises me now, which doesn't happen that often, but if they do, I'll have a chat.
It does quite a lot.
But, you know, I'll have a chat and go, did you enjoy it? Or, you know, but then I think I was so freaked out. I'd be like the cracker thing was quite mad as well, because those characters were kind of so extreme.
But it's not that anybody was unpleasant to you in any way, was it?
No,
it was just the fact that they recognised you from the telly.
Yeah, but I think for me, you see, I had done acting for you know, since I was a little one. And you could just act and then you could just be you. And for me, it was like, oh, what? No, I'm acting, but because I've gone into this other little box, suddenly everybody was, you know, it was like, it was more vulnerable. It made me feel more vulnerable. So, yeah, I did find that quite odd, you know.
And how long did you run away for?
Well, I ran away. I basically just did a bit of travelling and I chilled out, and I said to my agent, I don't want to be up for leads anymore. I just want to be up for more supporting roles, which is an odd thing to say, isn't it, in your 20s to your agent? But also I was quite brave, you know. If I played a certain character, after Cracker, I was sent so many girls with gun parts, you know, so many wild girl parts, and I just went, no, I've played that. No, I've just done it. I was really interested in playing different people. That's why, you know, my first job out of drama school, I was playing a South London mime artist. And for me, that was like heaven, you know. Wow, you know, I'm not playing somebody from Northern Ireland who, you know, is crying because her brother hasn't come back because, you know, of the troubles. So for me, it was constantly about reinventing.
Yeah.
And so there was something, the dichotomy of reinventing yourself as an actor, but then people recognising you. I just find it
tough to deal with.
Yeah. Like I said, then, you know, I'm not at all, and in a way, there was a part of me that was kind of like, oh, you know, I wish I didn't feel like this, but I did. I felt really embarrassed when people would recognise me, or. But
I understand that, because when I first, well, even up until probably a few years ago, you know, you're out at a party or a dinner, people going, oh, so what do you do for a living? And you, yeah, I'm an actor. Sorry, I'm an actor. Oh, what have I seen you in? You know, and that's a really hard thing. What do I have to do? I don't want to reel everything off. But in that time when you did, you know, you say run away.
Yeah.
What did you learn in that point, in that time, that you went, actually, I'm going to turn around, I'm going to come back? Did you approach work with a different head or a different mindset at that point?
It wasn't really that linear. I didn't really think about it. I remember I did this show called Dangerous Lady, which was really, really successful. And I remember the producers going, we want to do Dangerous Lady 2. I mean, Dangerous Lady 1, we just got away with by the skin of our teeth. So I was like, fucking hell, you be lucky. Anyway, so, but, you know, they were going to give me a producing credit. They were going to give me so much money. And I remember just sitting there going, no, it's not going to be very good. And my agent going, what? You know? And I was like, I don't want to do it because it won't, I just know.
Because you've done that part, you want to move on.
I've done that part, yeah. And I genuinely knew that, you know, the new story they'd come up with, it wasn't very good. So, and I've always been quite, you know, in my 20s, I suppose I had because I never wanted anything from it. I've never wanted anything from being, I've never, you know, of course, you know, as you get a bit older, you'd quite like a little bit of security and to know that you can pay the mortgage. But I've never wanted to be famous. It's just never, you know, I like playing interesting parts, and that's why I've always, and it's not to do with the size of part, but I like parts that have a really interesting through line. Things that I think, oh, hold on, I haven't done that.
When have been the tough times? When have you ever thought, do you know what? No, it's plan B. I can't do this anymore. I've got to knock it on the head. I've got to do something else. It's either got too much, or has there been those points?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, there was a period of time where I was like, acting's a bit like smoking, I'm just constantly trying to give it up.
Really?
Yeah.
Why?
In my 30s, definitely.
Was the passion lost? Was the enjoyment lost?
No, it was just to do with getting roles, constantly being up for really interesting roles, doing amazing auditions, and the powers that be going, she ain't for us, So
did you feel that you're banging your head against a brick wall?
Oh yeah, a lot, and still do, I mean, there's no even territory in this business. I just genuinely don't think there is. It's constantly about striving and I don't think it matters how big an actor you are, how famous you are. Maybe financially there are people who, have it a lot easier as actors. But I still think artistically they will be having the same dilemmas that jobbing actors have, which is, you've got to keep doing good work and you're only as good as your last job and all of those things. But definitely, yeah. I mean, there have been times where I've thought, it is like smoking, I genuinely really wish I could knock it on the head.
Do you still have moments of that now?
Oh, yeah, all the time. It's not it's not like, for me, I just think you've got to keep creative and you've got to find that within yourself, and do stuff within yourself that's going to, keep you creative. But you're not always going to get that from the business, because it's a business.
Yeah.
And, no, there's times where it is really hard, but I've got better at being, I think in my 30s, I dealt with it, the whole acting thing and those times that I've told you about, we were up for things and then, it doesn't go your way. And that happens a lot. You're down to the last 3 and it doesn't go your way.
But the rejection never stops.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think now, I'm in my 40s. Things are just so different for me. My life and my child and my home life is so much more important to me.
Thank you very much.
Than work. Obviously I really, really care about work, but not at the expense of everything else.
But isn't it, even though the rejection never stops, I personally don't think the learning ever stops. No,
exactly. Yeah.
So in that way, it is a tough profession.
Yeah.
And there are negatives, but sometimes they do outweigh each other.
Yeah, and I think the thing is that the brilliant thing about our profession is that you are playing human beings, and human beings will, and that's why I can't give it up, because human beings to me are just the most fascinating thing in the world. And there is sometimes where you read a part, where you just go, oh my God, the psychology of this human being, I just love, and I really want to get in it. And that is the biggest, most interesting job ever, to be able to study and have a sensual relationship to portraying other people is it's an amazing thing. And also it's a real like, what an amazing thing to do for a living.
Yeah.
So even though there has been hard times, and you know, I think what is different about each different age that you are an actor is that you grow as a person in each decade.
Yeah.
So in your 20s, you are insecure and you don't know who you are. And so that is portrayed in a lot of who you portray.
And you might be embarrassed about saying what you do for a living.
Exactly, in your 30s. And then, you're playing a whole other part of, there's so many different facets to the age of a human being, as much as there is to do with the colours of personality and character of a human being. So I find that really fascinating, and now being in your 40s, like for me, it's really interesting, the difference in terms of, the people that you're sent, and that's why it, like smoking, it's slightly addictive, and you sort of find it really difficult to give it up because you do kind of go, oh, I'm fed up with this profession, Anyway, I'm away upstairs to start writing my screenplay with Michael Smiley, You get up there and then, bing, the email goes and it's a script and, and then if it's something really interesting, you're like, oh, that's going to have to wait. I'm really into this now. So that's the thing about it.
I generally don't know how this started, so I'm going to ask this question. A few years ago, I know that somebody reached out to you to ask you, did she ask you to become a mentor straight away?
Yeah.
Because I generally don't know how this happened.
She wrote me a letter.
She wrote you a letter?
Lorna, a beautiful actress called Lorna Nixon Brown.
Yeah. So she wrote you a letter.
Mm-hmm. I was pregnant. I was 7 months pregnant with Hardy. And I got this letter from this young actress who was at the drama centre, just saying who you are and the characters that you portray. I've always really admired. I aspire to be, doing work like you do. And we were told to find a mentor, an acting mentor. And I really want it to be you. I'm sure you're really busy, the usual kind of thing at the end. And I immediately emailed her, or did she? Well, she wrote me a handwritten letter, but she put her email on it. And I emailed her back and I said, I'm there. I am totally your mentor. Let's meet. And we met on Holloway Road in a cafe. And from the moment I met her, I just adored her. And I mentored her through the drama centre. I mentored her the first couple of years that she started acting, and we're still in touch.
Yeah.
And she still rings me all the time for advice. But more than that, we're friends now.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed that. I really enjoyed that process. I have a community drama group here called Rats. I enjoy that process of nurturing people's talent. I think it's important.
And do you feel, obviously, that going right back to when you were inspired by Sean Hollywood, some of that now you're inspiring with the amateur drama group and with Lorna and things like that.
And it's as simple as, that people in this area meet you wherever and they go, what do you do? And you go, I'm an actor / actress, for those who prefer it. And they, just by the very fact that you've said that, you are making that possible in the head of a young person. You are just by the fact that you say, oh, I'm an actor. Just by the fact that Tasca, our little boy's friend, comes here and he loves dancing and he loves performing.
Yeah.
Just by the fact that he's in the house of two people that he knows are actors will make him think that there is the possibility that he can do it.
Yeah.
And that's important, I think. It's important for people to know that they can be around people that have a likeliness and a sensuality and a sensibility that they also may have.
And a positivity.
Yeah. And even though, we can sit here and because I'm talking to you, I can go, God, it's tough sometimes. And you can have these conversations. Of course, you have to. But every business is tough. Every business is tough. My sister works in a hospice. That's the toughest business you could be in.
Yeah.
And I just think there's something really, really important about people going, hold on a minute, I know two actors, they live down the road, that small towns, that there are people that go, I could do that.
Yeah.
And if they reach out to me and say, would you be able to help me? There's a kid who was in my drama group who's just got into the foundation course at Central, and he was in the room doing his Macbeth and doing his Hamlet and his Coriolanus and his something from a farce. I can't remember the actual speech, but to sit in your living room and for this young, really talented boy to be doing these speeches, that's a buzz for me. Yeah. Sometimes that's a buzz more than you doing it,
But I do think it's so important now that people shouldn't be scared to reach out to people or write people a letter and go, do you know what? I need a bit of help. Or is there any chance you give me some advice on this?
And I think most people would respond, actually.
Yeah, I do. I think they do, because I don't think that happens in this day and age now where people... I listened to... what was it? Was it a podcast or it was... Anyway, it was a piece on the radio or a podcast, and it was about how people don't put pen to paper anymore.
Yeah.
It was a podcast.
Yeah.
And...
That's so true, and it is beautiful that...
These friends met, and they didn't know each other that well, and then one of them got very sick and was in hospital and was undergoing cancer treatment, and she said, you know what, I'm going to write you a letter every week. And she did. She wrote him a handwritten letter every week, and they just forged this relationship through his illness and through his recovery, and it was all about putting pen to paper. So I think people should put pen to paper nowadays.
Yeah.
In this day and age, if it's, we'll just find it on the internet, or I'll just drop them an email.
Yeah, it's a really lovely thing.
I'm not sounding like an old curmudgeon, am I, by saying that?
I think it's a lovely thing. Me and my
internet.
sister used to do it. We used to do handwritten letters. We haven't done it for ages. But it just shows you how quickly that can fall by the wayside, And it is a lovely thing to do.
And I think because maybe there might be people, young or old, listening to this that might think, do you know what? I love what that person does. I'm going to write them a little letter and just say, I need help. Or, do you know what? I like what you did and you inspired me to do this. I think that's great. I think there's something very lovely about that. I just want to quickly talk about inspiration. And I know that I never really talk about jobs or people like this or name dropping anyway, because it's a bit naff. But I do want to talk about somebody who you worked with last year on a film, and I know that they inspired you. I don't want to say who it is. I want you to say. I don't want to put words into your mouth.
Well, and
it's particularly what I want to try and ask you about is
inspiring people.
The feeling about what never leaves you when you're on a film set, and this person who's been doing it for so long. I've
had a few of those. I mean, this is the other thing.
It's one in particular that I want to.
No, I know who you mean, but it's.
Can I steer this conversation?
Yeah. No, but the funny thing is, like, there is a part of me. There's been a few people that I've worked with in my time as an actor, which could end tomorrow. But the people there's certain people that I've worked with who then I work with again, and I don't know, you have a
complicity.
You have a complicity with them. Weirdly, Simon McBurney's one of them. John Sayles is another one. David Blair's another one. And I did feel like I had a really lovely relationship with Steven Spielberg, who you're talking about. I did a little bit on his film Ready Player One, and the journey for that. The funny thing is about the Steven Spielberg thing is it's a running gag, isn't it? In our industry, it's like, I'm sorry, it's Steven Spielberg on the phone.
Yeah.
And Craig will remember
Spielberg,
this.
I don't want to know.
Yeah. But Craig will remember this because, the likeliness of me being in a Steven Spielberg, like, let's face it, like it's kind of like, it is. It's like it's just crazy.
Well, I and so many other people listening to this would just think you're talking bollocks there.
No, but see, I don't know. Anyway, to me, it just, it was the most unlikely pairing in terms of my own head.
And how funny that you found out that you got the job on April Fool's Day.
No, I auditioned for it on
April Fool's Day, right.
So it was a kind of running gag, because I always mess about with my agent. I always try and make them laugh, because I kind of think, God, it must be so boring arranging actors' interviews. Anyway, so my agent basically sent me a thing going, you know, you've got an audition to go, well, it's to go on tape for Steven Spielberg, for Ready Player One, for his, you know, and I was like, and it's on the 1st of April. I was like, right now, you're really having a laugh, you know. Yeah, kind of thing. Anyway, they're like, yeah, no, you actually have an interview with Steve. Anyway, so I go to the interview, and it's April Fool's Day, and I'm like, Craig, how funny is this? I am going to this interview. Anyway, I get there, and it's a tape. And those tape things where you go to I'm always like, it's a tape. Really? Is Steven Spielberg ever going to see this tape? Like, anyway, so I go meet the lovely casting woman,
Lucy Bevan.
And literally, she's like, what do you think? And I was like, yeah, I kind of had a bit of I got a bit of a vibe with the scene there. Lucy, I'm feeling cool about it. So I do 2 takes, and she's like, I think that was really good. And I was like, really? And she's like, yeah, really good. She said, now Stephen's got a thing about height. And I was going, Stephen's got a thing about height. Because in my head, I'm like, yeah, right. This is really going to happen. So I'm standing back going, here I am, because Stephen's got a thing about height. And I'm like, you know, she does my picture and everything. And I leave this office, and I'm like, God, I'm really chuffed, because I think I did a really good audition. Lucy Bevan was really nice woman.
And then you've got to leave it there. You've got to leave it in the room, as you do with most auditions.
Just leave it in the room. Leave it in the room, even though in your head you're like, really? Is Steven Spielberg ever going to see that? Anyway, of course he's going to see the tape, because they wouldn't put you on tape. But this is just, you know, how my head works. Anyway, so I go off, and then I get this email from my agent just going, so Susan, the American casting woman really liked your tape, and they're going to show it to Stephen. And I'm like, right, okay. And that was like 2 weeks later. Didn't think anything of it. And then I was in Donegal with Craig and our little boy.
With me, I'm here.
With Craig, who's there, yeah, sorry. Who's doing the 2-Shot podcast.
They know that.
On Twitter and that other thing. And social media. Anyway, and then basically I got the part, and I'm playing the aunt of the main kid. And I did like a week.
But what was he saying to you when you were on set and you were looking around the set and you were talking to him and you were kind of in awe?
Well, the weird thing about when you do a tape, as you know, I mean, I've never had this before, have I? Where I've done a tape and then you don't meet the director. Oh, I did. I had it with Mark Munden for National Treasure. But he said that was quite unusual for him, because he would normally... But I was doing one scene in National Treasure. He was a fantastic director. But anyway, Mark basically said, I wouldn't usually do this. I would meet... Even if you send a tape in, I would then meet the person. But he didn't have time, because he'd already started shooting. So we spoke on the phone. So I was really... Can you imagine how nervous I was? Because, you know, it was about 3... It's about 3 scenes in the film. And...
But because it's a big studio film, they take quite a long time. There's not like 3 scenes that you can knock out in a day.
Yeah. Well, they contract you for 10 days.
Yeah.
And for me, it was just like, oh my God, I'm going to be on set with Steven Spielberg, who is like, has become my child's favourite director, because he loves Indiana Jones and he loves Jurassic Park. He's a dinosaur freak. So on so many levels, this was just like a huge, big buzz in my head, because I was like, Anyway, so I get there and do all the prep for it and everything. And then the first AD comes over and says, Susan, you haven't met the governor, have you?
The governor, they call him the governor. I love that.
My throat literally like covered over because I was kind of like, no. And he was like, well, come this way. And I was like, oh my God. So I literally walked around the corner. But you couldn't have been more, like, you couldn't have been made feel more comfortable than he did in the moment where I met him. Because I was thinking, my God, he's only seen me on tape. He might see me and go, God, really? Do you look like that? No.
Because it's always in the back of your mind anyway.
Yeah, well, you just don't know.
Yeah.
And so I walked around the corner and Steven basically just said, Susan, I'm so glad you're here. I was, and the guy who I was with, who I had my scenes with, the other actor, was going, right, I've got to prepare you because you will not actually hear a word he says. You will just be going, that's Steven Spielberg, that's Steven Spielberg, that's Steven Spielberg, that's Steven Spielberg in your head over and over again. And I was like, I really don't want to do that because how the fuck am I going to act in front of a man if I'm just going, that's Steven Spielberg in my head? So I was like, okay, I'm really going to try and not do that. I'm really going to just try and be a normal human that meets another human. You know, that's what I was doing in my head. Anyway, so I go around the corner, but he made it really easy because he just kind of grabbed my hand. He said, Susan, it's just so lovely to have you here. And I was like, huh? I just kind of looked. I was actually going, that's Steven Spielberg in my head for about 2 rounds. And then he said, what do you think of my set? And I was like, and it was a kind of apocalyptic, futuristic set. And I went, Steven, it's just a buzz. And he went, it's a buzz, right? I buzz every morning that I come to work. And I actually nearly started crying. Can you imagine how embarrassing that would have been? But there was something about this man, this 69-year-old man who has made so many films, and he said it with such innocence and such childlikeness. And from that moment, I didn't even feel remotely squandered that he was Steven Spielberg. I literally just went, I'm going to be all right. I'm totally going to be all right. And I had such a giggle and really enjoyed working with him. And it was spontaneous. It was fun. And he was just a real laugh and like a big kid. And he was so lovely to our little boy. And our little boy got to draw him a dinosaur picture of a dinosaur that is in our little boy's Jurassic film, which is called The Dead End, and the dinosaur is Predator X. So he drew Predator X for Steven, and Steven took it and said, I'm going to keep it. Like he was going to keep it for his next dinosaur film. So if you see a dinosaur that looks like it's on land and in the sea, it's our little boys.
Susan, thanks so much.
Oh, thank you.
Well, I'm sorry, that was brilliant. I thought, do you know what I thought? I thought I'm sat down with my wife in the front room. It's just me, her and producer Griff and a load of mics. Is it going to be a bit weird? It wasn't, was it? I didn't think it was. I thought it was fantastic. Brilliant stories there. Look, even if you're not into acting, you don't want to train or anything like that, I think these podcasts are interesting. It's just like you can sit down and listen. And if there's a little bit in you that's inspired, that you can take anything away, then that's great. Do you know what? Thank you so much for listening. I really mean it, because I love doing these podcasts. And I couldn't really do these podcasts on my own. I'm doing them with producer Griff, who's going to wave to me now. Oh, he's got his hand on his heart, the little love. But we really love doing these. If you enjoy listening, which I really, really genuinely hope you do, subscribe. I'm going to keep banging on about it for the next few, right? Please don't get bored. It's just a little thing. I've just hit the mic. I'm still getting used to this. Subscribe, right? Follow us on Twitter at 2ShotPod. Follow us on Instagram at 2ShotPod. Search for us on the Facebook. Yeah, the Facebook. How old am I? I'm only 41. Facebook. Follow us on that, right? Find us. If you want to, drop us an email. It's 2shotpod@gmail.com. Drop us an email. Please let us know what you're thinking. I generally would love to know. And while you're at it, right, when you're on iTunes or whatever, how you listen to it, however you listen, just easy. There's stars there. There's 5. Don't do 1. Just might as well just do 5. Just press the 5-star. Keep doing that. Spread the word. The 2-Shot Podcast. We want to hear from you. As I say, it's not possible. It's not a one-man band. This is a 2-man band. It's a 2-Shot Pod. And I want to thank producer Griff for everything. And also, let's talk about the splicing block. You don't know what it is? Go on to it. www.splicingblock.com. I will see you next time. I've been Craig Parkinson. This has been the 2-Shot Podcast. Thanks so much for listening. Over and out. The 2-Shot Podcast is presented by me, Craig Parkinson, recorded and produced by Thomas Griffin for Splicing Block. Our brilliant music is courtesy of Then Thickens. Cheers.